Hello, good people. So this the corrections for what we did yesterday. If you haven't done them yet, please ensure that you do them before watching the video, right? So we are told whatever that statement there, right? So what we are actually interested in is the number of elements. So we can see that we are given 31 students, right? And I told you that always before you can even attempt to start answering any question when it comes to stats, the first thing when you're given elements that are or data that is ungrouped, right? Because this is an example of an ungrouped data. The first thing that you should always do is to do what? Is to ensure that you rearrange your data into ascending order. That is very important for people. It's very important. So if we arrange our data into ascending order, we will have something like that, right? So I've arranged it in ascending order for you. We start with 4 and all of that, right? And after arranging your data, you must always count if you still have the same number of elements. So if we still have 31 students, right? So that will be the case. So the first question that, let me just try to move this. The first question we have is asking for mean, right? What did we say mean is? We said that mean is basically your average, right? So we know that mean is indicated by this symbol, an X with something like a bar like that, right? So that is your average. I'm sorry for the handwriting. Hopefully, yeah, something like that, right? So that's your mean. And we know that mean is given by what? By sum of all the data that you have divided by the number of elements you have, right? So that will be, when you add all the elements, you're supposed to get something like 1,655, right? So you're supposed to get something like that, 1,655. How many elements we have? We have 81 students, right? So you put that in your calculator and the answer will be 53.39, right? So that is what we have. So it means that the average is 53.39, right? Sorry for the handwriting, but I will just say it out loud as I'm writing the numbers so that you don't get confused, right? So that is what we have for the mean, right? That is a simple question we are sorting, meaning that the average, right? Since this represents the marks, meaning the average of the class, a lot of students in the class, average of them, most of them got 53.39 percent, right? We are sorting. We go to the second question. The second question is saying that if A, right, if A or A plus is 80% and above, how many students got an A, right? They told you that an A is 80% and above. So now what you're looking for is students that got above 80. So students that got above 81, we have 81 there, and then we have 87, right? So those are the only ones we have. We have 81 and 87. So it means that the number of students that got an A, we only have 2 students. I hope that makes sense, right? And then we come to the third question, which is saying, give the range of the marks, right? What did we say range is? We said range, remember we have range, and then we have what we call the interquartile range. So here they just said range, and we said that range is what? Range is your maximum minus your minimum, right? Range is your maximum minus your minimum. So our maximum is 87, as you can see here, right? 87 is our maximum and our minimum is 4, right? So you'll first write out the formula that range is max minus minimum. So it's 87 minus 4. So your range will be 83, right? So the range here, the answer is 83. And then they say that give us the median and the mode. The median we said is the middle one, which is also known as Q2. And I said that always for median, you must always find the position, right? So we know that the formula of the position for mean is half n plus 1, right? So n represents the data. the number of elements I meant to say. So the number of elements we have is 31. So it will be 31 plus 1, giving you 40. The half of 40, that is going to be 20, right? So we have to count. So it's going to be 1, position 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, right? So we know that our what you call our Q2, which is our median, is going to be 63, right? And then they said, give us the mode. The mode is the number that is appearing the most, right? So we can tell, let me erase it. Let me put back the data. So we've already found what the median is. What we want now is just to find the mode. We said the mode is the one that is appearing the most, right? So I can see that we have 58 appearing 3 times, and we have 63 appearing 3 times, right? So 63 serves as our median, which is Q2, right? And then as for your mode, the mode, we have 2 modes, right? The mode, we have 63 because it is appearing 3 times, as you can see them. And we also have 58. So you write both of them. This is an example of a bimodal data, right? You remember we spoke about the bimodal data in class system, right? So this is type of a bimodal data. It consists of 2 modes, which is 63 and 58. I hope that makes sense. So we go to the fifth question, which is saying give the first and third quartiles, right? So the first quartile is Q1, the third quartile is Q3. And we know that if we want any Q, whether Q1, Q2, or Q3, you must first calculate the position. And then after getting the position, that is when you can go to the actual data to find the exact, to find the exact value, right? I hope that makes sense. So now we know that for Q1, we know that it is given by what? By a quarter, right? And n plus 1. So n, already we know that it is 31, so it's 31 plus 1, which is 40. 40 multiplied by 1 over 4, that is going to give us 8, right? So it means position 8 here, that is Q1. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's actually 42, right? So the value of Q1 is 42. I hope that makes sense. And then we go to the upper quartile, which is Q3. For Q3, it's going to be 3 over 4. We want the position, and then n plus 1. So it's going to be 40 multiplied by 3 over 4, which is going to give us 24. So position, if this was position 8, position 24 is going to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So the actual value of Q3 is going to be 67. So it's Q3 is 67, Q1 is 42, right? We are sorted with that question. So the next question is looking for the interquartile range. You must just remember that the interquartile range, your IQR, is given by what? It's given by Q3 minus Q1. And our Q3 is 67, our Q1 is 42. So 67 minus 42, that is going to be 25. I hope that makes sense, right? Then the next question is asking how many students got a mark that was less than the average class mark. So we know that the average, we said when we were calculating, the average is your mean. We said it was 53.39. So we want the number of students that got below 53, right? So the ones that got below 53. So we have 52. So we'll start counting from here. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So it's going to be 12, right? So how many students got the mark class average? So it's going to be 12, right? Because remember the class average was 53.39. So the ones that are less than 53, because 54 is greater than 53. So we won't start counting. We start counting from 52 going down. I hope that makes sense. And then I know I said you must not do H and I and even J, right? But I'll just do them for you. So we haven't done percentile yet. I'll explain, right? So what is going to happen there? I'll explain, but it would make sense. Basically, for you to understand percentile, just think of it in terms of the like it's dividing the marks. It's telling us how many students got below 25%, how many students got above 50% and everything, right? So what is actually happening here is that if they're saying get the percentile, you must first get the position of the percentile, just like we did with the measures of dispersion, being your Q1 and your Q3 and the interquartile range, right? So for us to find the percentile, the formula is that the position of the percentile, we just use I, is given by the actual percentile. It can be anything, but we know that Q1 is 25%, right? And Q3 is 75% because your Q2 is 50%. We discussed that in class. So this is going to be P, the value of P divided by 100 multiplied by N plus 1 because we are looking forward for the position. And then after finding the position, you go to your data, you find the actual value. I hope that makes sense. So let's try and do that. So here we are told to find the 40th percentile. So it's going to be 40 divided by 100. Sorry for that. 40 divided by 100, and then N plus 1. Your N is 31, so 31 plus 1, that is going to be 40. And the value that you will get there is 12.8. So 12.8 is approximately 13 when you round it off, right? So for your value of 13, it's going to be position 13. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, right? So it's going to be this one, right? It's going to be 54. I hope that makes sense, right? I hope that makes sense. So that is what we do. That is the percentile, right? It's going to, the actual value is 54. So what does this 54 mean, right? Let me explain. What does this 54 mean? This 54 means that since they're saying it's the 40th percentile, it means that 40%, right? 40% of the class got less than 54, right? It's always equal to or less than. I repeat, since they are saying that calculate the 40th percentile of the data, it simply means that 40% of the class got 54% and less, right? And we know that the average of the class was 53.39. So it means if 40% of the class got 54 and less, 54 is greater than 53.39. So it means most of them passed, right? Most of them passed, passed the test. Don't worry, I will explain in detail in class what the percentile is and everything, if it doesn't make sense now. And then for this one, we are told to calculate the 60th percentile of the data. So you do the same thing, it will be 60 over 100 multiplied by 40. Then you find the position, you go to your data, you find the actual value. So what would this mean? The actual value for this one, I wanted to calculate it, but your answer should be 63, right? Your answer should be 63. So what does this mean? It means that more than 60% of the class, right? It means that 60% of the class got 63%, right? Or less. So then the last question is asking, according to the data gathered in the previous questions, do you think the test was a fair test? Yes or no, and give a reason for your answer. For us to know whether it was a fair test, firstly, we must check the average, right? So we can see that the average is 53. And we are saying that 40% of the 40% of the students got 54 or and less. So if they got 54, 40% got 54 and less, that means we haven't yet got 50% because 50% of the class got 53. So if 40% of the class is higher than the 50%, then it means that yes, it was a fair test. Because the average of the class is 53%, whereas the 40th percentile is 54. So 40% of them got 54 and less, which is higher than the average. So yes, it was a fair test. So this means that 60% of the students got more than the average. If 40% got 54 and less, it means 64 got, it means that 60% got 54% and more. I know if it's a bit too much, don't worry. Just ensure that you attend next week. I'll finish off with percentiles and everything that is there, and then everything will make sense. So that is it from me. Thank you.